says, why not mix that custom intro in Oro? And so here's a question for you, kind of going off of this whole Oro talk. We haven't mentioned Oro in a while, right?
Oh, yeah, all right.
So now that you've been mixing in Atmos, has that changed your opinion as far as like, because that's native. You're mixing. You're the creator mixing in native Atmos. Does it change your opinion of upmixed Oro? So not necessarily like mixing in Oro, but your content upmixed to Oro.
No, I mean no, because I'm taking the time to make it sound cool. Like if it's a mixing engineer that doesn't have enough time and or budget to make the mix sound cool, then yeah, I'll Oro upmix it. But if I'm taking, so that video took me like 2.5 weeks to do and like get figured out. I'll tell you this much, and it has nothing to do with Oro 3D, but I will tell you this much. Learning and working how the sounds I'm throwing around my room, I will 100% guarantee you, I will never, if I get a chance to make a home theater in a dedicated space, I will never have more than 1 row of seating. Never. 100%. Elevated rear soundstage, doo-doo. I do this thing where I put the sound all the way around you, so it's circling around you. It shouldn't go circle up here, up. Oh, now it's up behind me. Now come down. No, never. 100%. Never would do that. I just put a 3-row or like a three pack. So I have one center seat and no elevated surround soundstage.
Have you tried upmixing some of the stuff that you've recorded?
Somebody did. I haven't, but somebody did, and he said, "Oh, it sounds great too." I was like, "Okay, well, I mean, I wouldn't imagine it not to sound great."
Yeah.
The other thing is no in-ceiling speakers. 100%. Do not. Because if I put a height channel here and a height channel here, let's say front and back, and I want the sound to be above and to your left, in-ceiling speaker can't matrix that. Because you need the sound to travel and hit at the same point at the same time. So if you have in-ceiling speakers or this way, it's not going to happen. But yeah, height channels, boom, that's where it goes. So I like these are the things I'm learning. Like I would never, if I want an Atmos home theater, never have an elevated surround sound stage and never have in-ceiling speakers. And I only came to this conclusion. I told Joe about it. I came to this conclusion like 3 days ago. I was like, holy crap, because I'm doing all this stuff and I'm like, how are you supposed to hear exactly what I'm hearing in the mixing room if you have in-ceiling speakers? You won't, because it just like you might hear it down here, but the thing's supposed to be up here in the middle of the room off to the left. So like these kinds of things, it kind of makes me wonder, like, we've been fucking lied to for the last like 6 years.
Yeah,
let me play the devil's advocate then.
All right.
Yeah.
How in the world are you supposed to have sound come directly above you other than the little voice of God right in the center, which if the sound isn't supposed to come from the center and it's supposed to come, let's say, from your top left front speaker, like in.
So in the renderer, when I move the object to up to center of the room, so 100%. We're pretty much where I'm sitting, up and to the left, it will play that same signal on the height, rear height, front height, and rear height. And so where the sound meets in the middle is kind of like where I hear it from. Right now, if I lean back, I'll hear more of the rear. If I lean forward, I'll hear more of the front. But I have height channels in here. So just the physics wise of where they meet is where I'm going to hear the sound. So if you have,
it'd be much lower than your ceiling though, right?
No, it'll be kind of at my ceiling because I don't have them like totally.
So they're not angled down.
They are a little bit, but it's not like, so they'll meet up there. As opposed to if they're two in ceilings that are angled down, it's going to be like right here. So it's kind of weird. So just thinking about that, and like, I don't know, like I saw some video where some guy was going about all these angles. Okay, I found this PDF about the mixing studio PDF. So they based all of their things, their angles off of them. But the problem is, these music studios that are mixing Atmos don't have an elevated rear soundstage. And so like if you're basing all of your geometry for your home theater off of Dolby Atmos spec because of this. This is what they're supposed to be doing in the mixing studios, but they're not doing it. So there's this other thing of like, okay, well, if the mixing studio is not following the Dolby PDF on how to set up their studio, then you people, and this is from somebody that designs home theaters and sells it and makes a bunch of money, like all the shit's wrong. And so it got me thinking like, well, how would I design a home theater? 100% like the stuff that I'm doing in this room, like moving the sound around the room, like, dude, there's probably a good like 5 to 10% of fuck yeah, that was awesome that you're not going to get with the elevated rear soundstage, because it's just not, you're not in the center of the sound, because it's now like up and shooting into the room at a different level than your actual bed layers, which are, and in all these music studios I've seen, they're all at ear level, just like I have them here. So I kind of pissed off a little bit. Kind of like, well, man, how many people know this? How many people don't know this? Like, they're just making assumptions all throughout about this is how it's supposed to be and this is what you should be doing. I don't know.
Hey, by the way, this is all Buckmaster's fault.
Yes, it is.
Why?
Look, Channa, when you've been talking,
Buckmaster?
he's like, take my name off the screen so people don't associate me with it.
Oh yeah. So take that off the screen. How do we get over?
I would have done it for him, but I'm unable to, just so he knows.
Let me just pop something out. All right. Yeah, I guess, Channa, you're coming from the standpoint of like, you're creating the content. And so you get to see it from that point of view of like, all right, how do I want it to sound? And is it going to sound the way I want it to sound if your layout is like this, somebody's suggesting, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the main difference. I sent you a photo earlier because Michael, you were saying something about, how are you going to get the sound up there, except for a single voice of God?
If your speakers are angled down, and how do you get sound above you if they're all, I mean, will it reach above you? Yeah, but it's going to be a lot lower than above you. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, I think
that sound's going to converge way down here instead of up in your ceiling.
I thought this was a funny post from on Instagram. This is Focal setup here.
Oh yeah, that thing.
All right. So look at all these. These are basically like positioned like height speakers, right?
Yeah.
Like that's where, you just take out some of these and that's where you put like height speakers and one single voice of God.
Yeah.
They could have put all kinds of speakers up here too. It doesn't look like they have a shortage of speakers. But there's a lot of research that's been done where they said they had a ton of speakers. I don't remember what the number was, but see, this one's you guys can take a look at this.
Oh yeah, the
22.2 channel. And so they started taking away speakers, and the question was, how many can you take out without losing a ton of spatial awareness? And yeah, I don't think you have to have that many. You just need the right ones in the right place. And I think one up here and some height speakers is what they found to be optimal. So anyway, I thought that was kind of interesting. So yeah, I don't know that you need so many up there.
Yeah. But again, like some people are saying the way the DTSX, how you make DTSX is a bit better than Atmos because they are actually trying to create a bubble around you. So I don't know. So for Matt, was it Matt that asked about
Buckshot?
3D? Buckshot. Matt Buckshot Buckmaster.
That's it.
I have to mix anything in native Oro 3D or DTSX. I have to learn Pro Tools. So I've started with some online YouTube tutorials on just how the interface works, because I've been doing using Logic for so long. It's so easy. And then Oro Wilfried did send me a free license for Oro 3D, so that's sitting in my iLock For those of you that don't know what iLok is, it's a fucking dongle that you have to put in your computer to use this goddamn software. And it's like that all the time with music stuff. And then DTSX is $2,500. So I'm trying to save up some Patreon money and some other stuff. If anybody knows anybody at DTS that can just send me the software for free, that will be greatly appreciated. Another thing I found out, Joe, I haven't told you this. My Mac, or did I tell you my Mac Mini, which I use for my studio and music stuff, went kerplunk with anything Dolby Atmos.
Yeah, you said it was struggling.
I could not do anything with the new song that I'm working on. It won't play it. And I was thinking about getting a new computer. Oh, thanks, Thomas. I was getting a new computer, thinking about that new Apple Studio thing. And you know what happens, Joe?
What happened?
None of the software will work with that new operating system. So I have to use my laptop, this M1 laptop from 2018 or whatever. Yeah, to an extent,
hey guys,
Randall.
Real fast, I just gotta say I gotta split, so I will catch you later.
All right, man.
I know you don't want to be at the park after dark, dude.
No,
you need to have a shiv with you.
That's right, man. This is Prison Park.
Exactly. Right. Prison Park After Dark. It's a new TV show.
He knows his time is up out out there. He's got to go back
bro.
to himself.
All right, Aaron. We love you, buddy.
By myself. All right, man. See y'all.
Take care.
See ya.
Bye.
So yeah, that's one of the biggest things. Like some of this software won't work past what is my Big Sur Mac OS Big Sur. I can't use some of these softwares after that one. So it's kind of like it's very, very, very annoying. But
that's rough. Yeah, audio stuff is kind of like that.
Yep. But yeah, I know, Fred, we need more DTSX movies. I'm actually curious to see, because that $2,500 suite, it has a whole bunch of plugins. So I don't know. I hit them up on Instagram. I sent them a DM. I tried to slid in BTS DMs.
You slide into their DMs,
yeah. Like, hi, do you guys work with influencers? Currently, I'm making Dolby Atmos content, and my viewers would love for me to make some DTSX content. So
here's
if you
my
guys,
channel.
Yeah, this is my channel. Blah blah yada yada. So we'll see what happens. Otherwise, I'm saving up for it. I got like $1,000, so another $1,500 to go to get that. But my wife is always asking me for,
stuff.
New bedroom set, new mattresses, like big stuff. I'm like, crap. And then our fridge is doing something funky. It's like yelling all the time. It's like making some freaky sounds. And she's like, the refrigerator's been screaming at me all day long is the text I get. I'm like, shit. There's another $2,000. Anyway.
So what's Boxcar's question?
Which one? The one, the starred one, or?
I don't know. It's one next to the last one. He had a question back on that.
I like the tone winner a lot. However, I had to send it in for warranty repair. It just stopped turning on. I expect to have it back this week. I don't know what happened and hadn't had any issues. That's pretty interesting. Anybody else have like amplifiers that just stopped turning on?
Is that the one you're talking about, or you're talking about this other one?
There's one at the bottom.
This one?
What are you guys saying about Atmos versus Atmos is fair if you guys saying one ceiling speaker? I just don't buy that ceiling speakers are bad.
So here's, I was about to make this into a video. Here's what I'm thinking. This is how I can kind of relate to, or to kind of express to you guys. When I was in high school and playing around with car audio, and I was talking to some people, and he made this one guy I used to work with at Domino's.
Whoa.
He made it very simple. He's like, you either tune your car for performance or for looks and sound, right? And because that means if you're messing around with your car, you don't want all this heavy shit in your car, right? So like speakers, box, amplifier, this is all weight, right? And then you want to slam it and put some wheels on it, all big and stuff. So thinking about a home theater with performance versus aesthetic, right? You want a good aesthetic. You don't want to see any speakers, right? So you're going to use in walls, you're going to use in ceilings, but performance wise, get those speakers right around you. For me, after like messing around and like I'll go to work, like I'm going to go to work tonight. I'm going to work on my Atmos mix in headphones. And then in the morning at 7 a.m., I get off work, I come home, I walk the dogs, and then I'm back in the studio listening to how my mix was that I created in headphones and how it actually translates to here. And even there, it's still a little bit different. And so after these like few weeks of doing this stuff, because I was, even last week, I actually take these headphones with me to work. And like, I'm just thinking, I'm sitting there, I'm like, man, this just does not sound the same. And then I was like, well, how's it going to sound if I had a second row seating and my rear sound stage is 10 to 12 inches higher than all the other bed layer speakers? Like, to me, that doesn't sound like it's going to translate well from my studio here, where I have all my ear level speakers at ear level, right? And then I was thinking about, okay, well, what about the sounds flying around, right? So I did that little demo of my Moog sound with my, logo or whatever, and I played it upstairs, and I switched to 512, and man, so hold on, rewind. So I made it here in 714. I went upstairs, played it on my 514, and it sounds all weird because I'm taking the sound and it's going around and around and around, and you know how the rear surrounds are folded into the side surrounds, and because my side surrounds are the only way I can have it, it sounds weird. Yeah. And then when I drop it down to 512, it sounds even weirder because the sound is, just kind of circling from the top and like circling around you, going down. Yeah, I came to the conclusion that it's almost like being in a music studio. Like you won't have, in a 2-channel situation, you won't have the same sound that's happening in the music studio unless you have an equivalent, array of speakers spaced out the same. So it's kind of fucked. I'm like, I'm spending so much time on this, and like all the cool shit you're probably not going to hear if you have a elevated rear sound stage and if you have in-ceiling speakers. And I don't know if too many people have brought this up because everybody just fucking sucking on Dolby's dick over here, thinking it's the best shit since sliced bread. And like, sorry, I mean, like even some of these guys, with YouTube channels that are mixing in Atmos, this is the best thing. I'm like, you guys really don't understand like how many limitations and how many variations of setups there could be. And if you're trying to, like, if I'm going to put like 3 months of my life making this mix for a movie, I want it to fucking sound great. And sadly, it's not going to be sounding great. And Dome Tweeter, if it's in a Dolby theater, that's a totally different thing. That's a totally different thing. Dolby theater is totally different. Mixing for a Dolby theater is totally different. You actually do that like Wilfred has. Galaxy Studios is a theater with a mixing console in the center. That's literally what it is. And they mix for the theater. So that's a different thing. This is all for home. This is all disc, 4K discs, that kind of thing. So yeah, I'm like, in the last few weeks, man, playing around with this stuff, I'm getting pretty pissed off.
I think you just need to come with me sometime when I go to Kansas City or back to Wisconsin, and you need to hear some proper killer Dolby Atmos home theaters. I'm telling you, dude. It'll freaking blow.
All right, cool. I'll bring my demos and be like, we should be hearing this sound at the top of the room in the middle. And if we're not, then we're not.
See,
and that's the thing. And that's why some of these people, hold on. So Buddy Love, he said, I played your Atmos demo for my brother. He was blown away. Great explanation. Cool. Here's the thing. Fuck, did I just forget the fucking point? Oh, jeez.
You're just saying if it's not coming from the center, top center.
Okay, right. So here's the thing, because in movies, it's all beam, splash, biz, wow, right? It all happens so fast. It's hard to locate. So that's that's why I tried so many different ways, and I realized if I just talk slowly and move my voice around the room, you can see where the holes are in your system or the discrepancies. And so many people commented, "Hey, when you move over here, the sound drops into my center channel." Like and that's because
I heard exactly like you described it in my system.
So like, yeah, watching demos, cool. but they're all going to show you all the best things and not what's actually wrong and what needs to be fixed. Because I don't mind if Dolby Atmos is great. I would love for it to be great. But for me, and I know Joe seems the same, you're going to believe in the same thing. Like there are some limitations.
I think that's what we're finding out. It's just since you're mixing in it, right? You know where you want the sound to appear like it's coming from, but then you try it, you put it in the visualizer, right? You put it, okay, it's supposed to sound like it's coming here, and it's like, it doesn't really sound like it's coming from there, and it's just because simply you don't have a speaker there, right? So everybody wants to phantom everything, right? Just because like, oh, if there's a left speaker and a right speaker, you can do a phantom center. Okay, let's extrapolate that out. Maybe that works. Like if I have a speaker here and a speaker up there, then it makes a phantom, and then let's up here, that's a phantom. It doesn't work as well as your left and right speaker. I think that's what we're finding out. And a sound coming towards you and away from you, it's really hard to do, right? The only way that you're going to make something sound close to you is if you had a speaker that was close to you.
Yeah, and that's what front wides are for.
I mean, close to you, like right in front of you, right? So if your speakers are, Channa, 14 feet away, if you want it to sound like something is 1 foot away, there's no real way to do that.
Yeah, because the sound's coming at you no matter what.
But they make it seem like you can do that, right?
Yeah.
I think a lot of people think that, oh yeah, if I have all these speakers around me, they can make it seem as if this thing is here, not 14 feet away, not in the corner there, right here. And it's just not possible. Yeah. Is that something that you're claiming that you've heard, Michael? That you can hear that sort of thing? Like, okay,
so think about this though. So if you were standing 14 feet away from me and you were speaking, how does my brain know that you're 14 feet away?
I mean, it's obviously softer.
Exactly.
Right?
It's softer.
Right.
You have lower volume.
What else?
Yeah, it's not a matter of, I can pinpoint that thing is there.
Well, softer. Well, let's go off that. So you can tell something's 14 feet away versus 2 feet away or 1 foot away. Why? Because it's softer. What else?
Yeah, I mean that's
different tonality, right? So the high frequencies are not going to drop off as much because we know when it's closer, the high frequencies just don't drop off as much because you're less air attenuation.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. What else? The reflections are going to be different. Right. Reflections off your sidewalls will be different because that's the number one way that we can tell where something is coming from, because the direct sound and then you hear the reflected sound like, oh, all right, it took this many milliseconds to hit that wall and shorter time off this wall. It's probably over there. Right. Versus
close on where
close to you. Now you're hearing direct sound and then the late reflections are really low in volume and very late. That's what tells you how far something is.
So Croson, to answer like your statement, when I was visualizing that, I literally was thinking I'm outside, like in my front yard. So when there really isn't any reflections,
right.
I wasn't even thinking about like inside my house.
No, definitely. Context matters, right? Context does matter because you're going to have less reflections. If we're in a room having a conversation,
that's going to be different.
Sure. And you've got Joe's voice 14 feet away versus Joe's voice 2 feet away. You're definitely going to hear the difference. Yeah. You can have something close scream loud and something far away whisper. So volume doesn't mean anything from distance. Leon H says Atmos generally is a letdown. The technology is awesome, but the execution is I think like a lot of like that one guy bend over who put a lot of hate comments. He even watched this new
battery.
Yeah.
He
even watched this new video and he's like, he didn't even comment on the things that he was calling out in my previous video that he thought was wrong, but I proved to be correct in my second video or the Atmos video. But he just said, oh, things were designed for 17 speakers and it sounds like crap when you go to 2 speakers. Duh. Because haters can't really understand like, okay, here's all the proof. You're wrong. I'm right. I don't mind being wrong. I don't mind being wrong. I will admit that shit. Don
with his Lingdorf. He always saying, yeah, the coin sounded like they were in my lap. And he loves to say that. Yeah, when
I think Don just loves things in his lap. That's all.
Yeah, and what was it? Ready Player One. When the coins hit, he's like, "Yeah, it sounded like they're falling into my lap."
Oh, and you guys know that Ready Player One was only created with a 7.12 bed. It wasn't mixed in a 714 with objects flying around. So just know that. If that sounded really good in just 712, that means we can do a whole lot more in 714 if they take the time to do so. And that, I think that's one of the biggest.
So do you think you can do this, Channa? Make it sound like coins are falling into your lap with Atmos? Like they give you the tools, right? Just can you?
I don't know.
Can you do that? Is a limitation you? What is a limitation Dolby?
Well, and then at the same time with this video, it's seeming to me that like different AVRs might actually decode Atmos differently depending on the brand, and I think it might be how much you pay for these things. Like if there's a discrepancy in that as well, then it's just like I don't know. I don't even know. Joe, thanks for the super chat. I'm pissed off at Dolby 2 for 5XX. Like your video suggests plays in my 614 setup too, but I don't follow your ceiling speaker argument at all. Hey, all good, man.
What's a ceiling argument? I forget.
So no, the in-ceiling speaker thing. And I think somebody else mentioned something about that they don't have 7 bed layers, they have 6. So they have one surround back speaker, which you can totally set up in a Denon, right? You can say surround back, and then you can designate
those, I guess, or
kind of. Yeah, I guess it doesn't play. It doesn't actually use his 6th one. Is that what you're saying, Joe? It doesn't use your surround back because you're set up for 5XX. I don't know. I think it's all like. I think we're still in the learning phase, right?
Michael's not buying the in-ceiling thing either, Channa.
No, he's not. Because I remember, and I got all pissed off the time. It was like a year ago. Like a year ago. Mike was like, the best is in ceiling, and then high channels. I was like, wait. Why is the best in ceiling? Huh?
Well, so put it this way. What I'm saying is positioning. Now I've heard some on ceiling, and I feel the on ceiling actually is a better performer because you've got a speaker that's designed with its own box. It's playing external from, it's not using your attic as the back box like is in mine. So eventually I'd love to go to an on ceiling Dolby Atmos setup versus an in ceiling Dolby Atmos setup because I've heard a Wisdom Audio setup that was incredible Dolby Atmos setup, but he had his
I remember
they were on ceiling speakers, kind of like this. They were angled down.
Yeah.
Dude, it was awesome. Absolutely incredible.
And for a lot of those that want to mimic the music studio, that's usually what's happening. That's usually they are 100% not using in-ceiling speakers.
It was cool, man. I mean, super cool. And I've heard a bunch of JTR systems. Those are all on ceiling speakers. They're angled, slanted.
Well, isn't that have more to do with that? A speaker in a proper box is going to have a particular frequency response. I mean, they have issues also because you're going to have the comb filtering because of the ceiling bounce. But that sounds to me like more like, okay, these speakers up here go lower in frequency. They're closer probably to full range than, I don't know when those are cut off, but then a little tiny speaker or a in-ceiling speaker, that sounds like more of the difference that you're talking about though. But I think what Channa's talking about is the placement. Is it the placement more of the speed?
The placement. Where is that object in a 3D space supposed to be, and where is it happening when you're using in-ceiling speakers versus high channels? Is that a video title? Totally. And all the things you just mentioned too, though, Joe. I mean, they all play a part in it. And there are people that are like, oh, well, in a movie theater, the Atmos movie theater, they got rows and rows and rows of speakers on the ceiling. So an in-ceiling speaker would make the most sense. Sure, if you've got fucking 20 of them, right, that they're all aimed down, and then so a plane flying over will hit these ones, all the ones going over you and behind you. But in a where you're just having 4, where is that sound going to be imaged properly? And which placement is better for that? So these are the things that we just don't 100% know. And there's a lot of people on YouTube saying ABC is better. And there's a lot of people that probably sold a whole lot of people on this is better and not really actually knowing that it's better and it could be worse. So these are the thoughts running through my crazy mind at like 2 a.m, 5 a.m. when I'm doing this stuff. And I'm like, wow.
So
maybe
what do you think
we
is
all
best
jumped the
then?
gun a little bit.
Which setup do you think is best then?
I think don't buy shit until we fucking figure it out. I think that's don't spend $20,000, $50,000, $80,000, $120,000, $300,000 on a home theater until it's actually figured out which setup is better. And then even then, what kind of content are we getting? So then at that token, does it fucking matter? No. Do whatever you want.
Yeah.
Whatever.
We're
Like
just
put some speakers wherever. Put some speakers wherever you want. You put one under your butt. You put one off to the side. You're cool. Like it's not going to matter because there's nothing standardized. There's no standardized. Like Dolby can make as many PDFs as they fucking want, and all these other guys can go jerk off to them because it seems like that's what they do. Because there's like, oh, you got to follow the spec. Remember, the Dolby Atmos spec is created not for it to sound good, but for them not to get sued by Oro 3D. So think about that. It's not about it sounding good. It's about so they don't get sued. And once you put all these things together and then add in what people are doing real world, what these mixing engineers are doing real world, they're not following anything. So there you go. Put a speaker wherever you want to. Fuck.
By the way, Channa speaks for himself.
I just wish Channa knew how he really feels.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like I think if I was going to build a home theater, it would be all ear level speakers, only one row of seating, height channels for sure, and a voice of God. That's it.
Height channels, you're saying like not like Oro setup.
Like I would go with an Oro setup.
Yeah. And that's totally cool. And the thing is, man, you got to do you. You know, if that sounds better to you,
that's what I'm saying. Like, because everybody's doing you, even the mixing engineers, like they're doing you. Okay. You do you. Everybody get an Atmos. You got an Atmos. Everybody got Atmos.
You do you.
To put a speaker wherever you want.
Oh mercy!
I see what you're saying. So
I just got a text from Sasha. She's like, "Are these people in your show that much nerds that no one ever watches Monday Night Football?" Because I guess the game is on, and she's Yeah. And then Chris Wyndham, yes. Channa, you're mono for DJing. Yes, I'm DJing in mono. You go to a nightclub, you go to a festival, they're playing in mono. So do whatever you like. Whatever you like. And, whatever looks good, whatever you feel is good. Dolby Atmos spec, whatever.
Put the speakers where you can play them. Wherever you're allowed to place them.
For the most part, like that's what a lot of people have done. That's what I did upstairs, but down here it's just like, oh man, there's so much that you're missing not having ear level speakers at ear level, like having an elevated rear sound, just that alone. And that's been happening since like 7.1 came out long ago, right? So
I think that's just the compromise though, right? So if you have second row and they have to be above you, it's everything's a compromise. We've already said that before.
Yeah.
But for me, better if you could keep it all the same.
No, I have 3 people in my home theater. That's it. I got 4 people. You got to stop kicking somebody out.
You just need to go back to TV speakers so you can stop griping. How about that?
I love you, Mike.
That's the only way you're going to be satisfied, man.
Yeah.
So why are you so upset? What are you so upset about?
Here's my thought on it. Here's just the nuts and bolts of it.
The nuts and bolts. Here we go.
The bottom line is when you set it up, do you enjoy it? To me, that's the bottom line. Am I missing content up there? I don't know. When I watch a movie, am I absolutely exhilarated and going, dude, that was phenomenal and that was cool and I was engaged in the movie? Dude, I'm not analyzing where the daggum speaker placement was. And if I am, you got your system set up wrong. Because if you're going, oh man, that should have been from over there. Dude, you totally missed the whole point of having a system. The system is supposed to bring you into the movie and help you to forget that you're even watching a movie, that you're so immersed in the experience that you feel like you're a part of the movie versus trying to analyze, where is this sound supposed to be coming from? I can tell you right now, I've never once in my Dolby Atmos system, never once in all the movies I've ever watched in there went, dang, that was screwed up. Never once.
Yeah.
Ever.
That totally proves my point, because the sounds are happening so fast that you don't know where they're supposed to be coming from.
Michael's
and
probably
if they're
got his
even
left
in
and
the
right.
wrong place.
So my point is, well, no, I had
left
his
and right switched.
No, I had his demo, and everywhere he said, "Hey, I'm here." I even went up to the speaker just to make sure yeah. Okay, I hear it in the top left and the back right or the back left.
Mhm.
Cool. I'm hearing it exactly like he's explaining it.
Yeah.
I heard everything that he described, just like he did. So, and all the home theater tours, not all of them, but I've been to a ton of home theater tours, probably more so than anybody I know on
100%.
on YouTube,
Yeah, 100%. Probably.
And I've just experienced a ton of them. And again, I've never once sat in somebody's home theater and went, that doesn't sound right.
I don't know about that.
You know
I don't
what I
know
mean?
about that. Right.
Well, okay, if it's properly set up. I'm not saying everyone, because not all home theaters even sound good to begin with. I'll be honest with you.
Isn't that what we're talking about, though?
I'm not going to say that on the video. I'm not going to say, man, this thing sucks. You know what I'm saying?
Isn't that what we're talking about, though? Is we're trying to help people set it up properly.
100%. Yes.
And so that's the debate. Is not like, you're saying, yeah, as long as you enjoy it.
Thanks.
No,
I think
you can set up
more
wrong.
correct is correct is more enjoyable, probably, right? So we're trying to figure out what is correct.
Yeah.
If you have your left and right speaker switched, could you enjoy the movie? Yeah, probably.
No.
But like if the car goes,
I would notice that.
I don't know if that's a good thing.
No, I noticed that. If your system's set up properly, I promise you, you're complaining about something that is non-existent. I think.
Well, I think Channa is saying, I'm spending this much time to make this sound come from here to here to here and do this and come down and do that. And so if the person's not hearing that at the end of end, he's like,
Okay, so let's just kind of flip the coin on that too.
Okay.
So the person that has designed, the visual effects person, the director, they have the colorist, is that what they're called?
Colors, yeah.
Who color grades it. They want it to be a certain way. Well, should we not all even enjoy it? Because who all is calibrating their TV? This TV isn't.
But 100%. Like I'd say, like 95% of TVs aren't calibrated when people buy them. Sure.
Yeah. It's like, okay, you buy even a projector. It may not look exactly like the reference monitor that they had it, but does that mean that you can't enjoy it? Heck no. You can absolutely enjoy that. So that's just my thought. I think, you can whine and complain about it. And at the end of the day, my question is, do you enjoy it? If you don't enjoy it, you don't need to be in this hobby. Throw your crap in the garbage and go back to a TV. And I'm not saying you specifically. I'm just saying you should set your system up in such a way that your subwoofers, man, they impact you. Your dialogue from your center channel, man, you can hear it clearly. Your Atmos effects, they're engaging. The, no speaker draws attention to itself. And if you don't have that, that's a setup problem. And you need to go back and figure out, okay, where did you screw up? But if you're listening to it, man, and it sounds amazing, dude, enjoy it. Sit back and enjoy it.
Yeah. Well, I guess it's because people are investing a lot of time, a lot of money 100%. Into 100%. This. And so for me, it's less about what, I don't make content that Channa's making. I don't care. Right. I'm trying to reproduce whatever the content creator is making. I want the sound to be there. My issue with this whole thing is more that I think that the expectations aren't set properly by Dolby. They make it seem in the video, and this is what they're supposed to do, right? They're supposed to market and make it seem like, it's going to sound like you're there. It doesn't sound like you're there. It sounds like an awesome surround sound system, right? It doesn't trick me into thinking I'm like, there. If I'm into the movie, I kind of forget, I'm in the movie, but they're making it sound like as if the sound is so realistic, it's indistinguishable from real life. And it's just not, it's not what it is. What it is you have all these speakers around you. You can make all the sounds go wherever you have speakers, right? Very accurately, right? If Channa speaks from that speaker, the height speaker, it's going to sound like he's over there. It can do that. But can it make it sound like he's somewhere where there's not a speaker? Kind of not as accurately, right? And I think it's about setting the proper expectations of how this works and what are the limitations, right? And so I think that's important to tell people, like, this is a limitation. I know Don wants to make it sound like, things can come towards you in a way. Think about the demos that people love, right? Quiet Place. Oh yeah, the creature's up there, right? It's above you on the ceiling. It's not up. It's not near you on the ceiling. Sounds awesome, right? Very realistic. You know why? Because you have speakers on the ceiling. That's why it sounds realistic. Because it's where the speakers are. Anytime you try to make a sound as if it's somewhere where there's not a speaker, it's gonna be
that's when things get wonky. That's when things get wonky. And just so you guys know, I did make an Oprah Winfrey joke, and look, we got Oprah Winfrey here in the chat saying you get Atmos. But to what Joe is saying, like 100%, and like even to what you were saying, Mike, like you have great experience. It really wasn't when I went from the 5. So I've gone from 5.0 or 5.1 to 5.12 and then 5.14. And it wasn't until I built this 7.14 where I noticed the differences.
Yeah.
Right. Those were the glaring things, is not having that surround back. And since we've gone from channel based to object based mixing, my rear surrounds when I had 5.12 were doing the job of the surrounds, the surround back, and the rear height. So anything object wise flying around back here would always be at my sides. And I was just like, holy shit, this is not right. This is just not right. Like, and when I come down here and listen to the same movie, I'm like, oh, that's how it's supposed to be. So that's when the light bulbs go off in my head. I'm like, everybody, even Dolby, and even the Dolby mixing people, they're just like, this is how it works. And it just no matter what system you have, it's gonna you can mix on 916 and it'll sound great on 512. And that's just not the case. And they're just selling people a whole bunch of naked dreams.
Yeah.
That's
and I can see that. So think about this. That would almost be the equivalent of saying you can get surround sound with 2 front speakers. You can't. That's a physical limitation. Can it envelop you a little bit? Sure. But can you get sound that comes from behind you? No, because you don't have speakers back there. So the less speakers that you have, I don't think you have to have an unlimited amount of speaker, like an infinite amount of speakers to achieve a good, immersive experience in a home theater. But the less speakers you have, I mean, let's just face it, physics takes, place. And you can't physically make sound come from somewhere where a speaker isn't. So, and that's, they try to do that, and they do the best they can by adding volume to this speaker and adding volume to that speaker. And hopefully you get kind of some matrix sound in between them, kind of like a, what do they call it? Pseudo. What's the pseudo?
Yeah. I think you're on.
What do you call it?
Pseudo surround? What?
Yeah. like not pseudo-acoustics, maybe they call it. I don't know.
Oh, psychoacoustics.
Psychoacoustics, where your brain thinks it's something's happening, but it really physically isn't there. So
yeah, and that's interesting stuff, right? Yeah. I've even said when I listen to Channa's Atmos mix here on my MacBook Pro speakers, because they know the distance that most people are going to be from the speakers, it sounded kind of, I kind of got that effect, right? Was it as good as my home theater? Not even close, right? Was it a cool effect? Yeah, I thought it was kind of cool, right? I think it's just, like I'm saying, you have to set expectations. Do I expect this to sound better than my home theater? No, right? I think what was it? Who's asking that question? Don, how does a 2-channel system create a phantom center channel? I think you're asking me, are you really asking, or are you saying you trying to suggest something?
I think I'm guessing he's trying to equate that to
why doesn't it work for others?
It'll work for home. If it works for there and 2-channel, couldn't it work for home theater?
Why doesn't it work for maybe for front to back? Is that what you're saying?
So here's the thing, Don. If I'm mixing a song for then this has happened before. If I'm mixing a song, or one of my songs, the vocals in the center, the kick, the snare, and something else is in the center, and I send it off to my mastering engineer, and he's like, "Hey, do you still have the can you still mix this for me?" And I was like, "Sure." He's like, "I need you to get the vocal out of the center so that the kick can breathe." Right? So what did I do? Is I was like, okay, sure. So I went in and I doubled the vocal track. I panned one hard left, I panned one hard right. And even though they're living on the extreme right and left, when you listen to it, the vocal is down the middle. That is a phantom center, and that's how you create it. So if they're doing that in the mix space, all you have to do in the music reproduction phase is have your left and right speaker set up properly, and you'll hear that phantom image, even though from my view, those sounds are coming from directly from the opposite sides of the speaker, but they are ending up, your brain stitches that shit together, and it's coming at you from the center. So that's what a phantom center is.
The way I think about it is it works pretty well, extremely well for two speakers left and right. Actually it even works better if the speakers are beside you. But if you ever tried that, you can have a very clear speaker, sound in the middle of you, in the middle of your head, actually. But yeah, exactly what Channa was saying. If both ears are receiving the same signal at the same time, your brain says, all right, that's probably coming from the center. And it's the same way that our eyes kind of work, right? So we have depth perception.
Not my eyes.
Mike is like, I'm checked out.
Yeah.
I'm checked out. I mean,
So I can't help you there.
Basically, like this eye sees something a little bit different from this eye, and so you can tell when something's coming towards you, right? But if I throw a ball at you, you're not going to let it hit your head, right? You're going to try to avoid that. But if I throw a ball to the side of your head, are you going to catch that? Like, oh yeah, you might hear a difference. Like, oh,
but you'll hear some wind right before it hits your face.
You're worse. How about behind you? Is that going to be good if I throw a ball behind your head? You're worse. Your ability to sense stuff is worse in different locations depending on where your eyes or ears are. And I think that's all we're saying is there are limitations, and it's not equal every time. The front to back would be pretty good if here I'm sitting this way. If I turn this way, oh, that's going to sound really accurate, right? Just because I physically turn my head. I think that's all it is.
Yeah. So he comes back with, so why can't your left surround and right center Atmos channel create a sound above your right shoulder?
Because it's not just that, Don. It's not just phantom. Like it's not just both of them hit it. It's not a direct signal. Our ability to determine how far something is also based on other reflections in the room. Right. So you have to account for those. It's not just the direct sound, right? It's also the reflections, and you cannot, unless you're in an anechoic chamber, you can't remove those reflections. And those reflections are what tell you, it gives your brain a hint as to where the sound is coming from. So regardless of what's happening on the track, if there's a speaker over there in the corner, your brain is pretty good at knowing the sound is coming from that speaker, right? I know people talk about, the speakers are disappearing. Yeah, sure.
Okay. All right.
Your brain is very good at that.
Perfect. I just got light bulb just went off in my head. Okay, so I will make a new Dolby.
Thinking now?
Yeah. Surprise. You should have seen me yesterday when there was no power, man.
Oh God,
flying. Anyway, all right. I will make a new Dolby Atmos demo. Okay.
All right.
And I will go from the left height.
All right.
In increments of 25% over to the right height, and we'll see how well your systems with height channels, and obviously the other people that have in ceilings, tell me how.
I like this guy.
Let me tell you. You tell me what your experience is like with height channels, with in ceilings, and well, fuck it, with the bouncy house. Whatever. Yeah. Throw that shit in there too.
How about them sound bars too, man? Let's throw
sound bars. Yeah, and laptops, right? And so let's do that nice and slow so we can actually hear. And I'll put the Dolby Atmos renderer on the screen.
All right.
so that we can check it out, because this is definitely something we need to figure out. And then also do the same thing from front to back.
Right.
Obviously, people with 2 height channels doesn't apply, but yeah, okay. So there's a new video, and then of course, I know somebody else said something here about.
Real quick, to be fair though, your current videos that you're making are not in that. What is that what is that thing where basically it's in a different format, where if I use Oro, it's only gonna come out as 5.
Oh yeah. No, the only way I can't deliver you guys a Dolby True HD version
that's what it is.
of what I'm doing, because you won't be able to play it. I can output it, but there's nothing. Even Stefan with an F or whatever, Stephen with an F. He said that the .mlp. It's funny because the extension is main listening position.
Yes.
That is the like Dolby True HD file.
Okay.
He said that the Oppo 203 would play it, so I tried it in a bunch of different things and it doesn't play. So
the Shield works. I have a
but that's
file.
that's still the compressed 5.1 with JOC. So it's the Dolby Digital Plus JOC codec that I'm able to deliver to you guys, that you will be able to play. Otherwise, you won't be able to play any of these things. And it's literally just a QC check. That's the only reason why I can actually deliver something like that.
Okay.
It's only for quality control. To actually get something that's lossless in Dolby True HD, we'd have to go through the actual like DVD, like 4K Blu-ray authoring process
I see.
to get that out for you guys. So that's another like hurdle. And again, even if I get or I'm able to like mix something in DTSX, I don't know if I can deliver something to you guys that's in DTSX unless it's gone through that authoring process. So it's like I could throw $2,500 at this thing and the shit won't work for you. It'll work for me in here, but it won't work for me upstairs. And so like these are the things like oh well, do I want to spend that kind of money? And like I spent all this money flying blind. I did call and ask a few and talk to a few Atmos mixing engineers in different studios. One guy in Austin, another guy in San Francisco. And they were very adamant about I can print out an MP4 and I'll be able to play it in a consumer grade setup. So I have no idea if that'll work for DTSX or Oro 3D. It sucks. It's like I'm spending hours trying to do this and the money, and then it doesn't work. Then I'm just like, well, shit.
Yeah. Make sure to join us every Monday for our live stream at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern at youtube.com/Daily HiFi.